remove the wheel. I'm going to use a 19mm socket, take the lug nuts off, and remove the wheel. I want to remove this caliper bolt right here. I'm going to use a 14mm socket. Now the top one you cannot access because the hose is in the way, so we'll leave that one in, but just remove the bottom one. Slide that out. I'm just going to take a straight blade screwdriver and I'm going to just compress the piston a little bit in the caliper. What we'll do is slide this caliper up with it tipped over completely. We can just slide the pin off of the bracket, just like this. It'll slide right out and that pin can just stay in there. And we'll take a caliper hanger and we'll attach it to the coil spring. Just let the caliper hang just like that. I'm going to take this brake pad off, just slide it out. Now I'm going to take the rotor off. This bracket I don't need to take off because of the way it's designed, which is nice. So I'll just take a hammer and I'm going to tap on this section of the rotor. Just be careful not to hit the studs. And that came off easy. And just slide it up. All right, from the back side of the knuckle, I'm going to take this wheel speed sensor off. I'm going to use a 10mm socket. Pull that off. And pull the wheel speed sensor out and just set it aside. I'm going to take these 4 bolts out. I'm going to use a 17mm socket. Bolts out. Now I set up a slide hammer and we're going to pull this hub off. So this is pretty rusted up, so we're going to try something else. All right, from the back side, I'm just going to spray some rust penetrant in the bolt holes and around the back side of the hub. And then we'll let that soak for a little bit. All right, from the back side, I'm just going to take some of the bolts and get those started. Just turn them a couple threads. And now I'll take a hammer and tap the bolts from the back side. There we go. I'll just grab the hub from the front, take these bolts out. You can slide this off. Now the backing shield kind of came off with it, and that's okay. All right, I'm going to try to support the shield with a screw jack and hammer the bolts down. There we go. All right, take these bolts out and slide the hub right out. Now I'm just going to take a wire brush, try to get some of the rust off of this backing shield or backing plate. I'm just going to take some brake parts cleaner, just clean this up, clean up the front side. If you got anything on the brake, parking brake shoes, just clean those up. Should be okay. Let that dry. You can also clean up this area, get some of the rust out of here, and then brake parts cleaner on that as well. I'm just going to take a little bit of anti-seize and just put it in this area so that if the bearing ever has to come out again, it won't get stuck like that. You can do it on these surfaces too, just a light coat. I don't like to use a lot of this, but you just do a nice skim coat, and I'll do it right here as well. Just don't get it on the brakes. You could put it on the bearing instead of doing it on this, but it doesn't matter either way. Now I'm going to take the bearing, and where the sensor goes in, that's going to be closer to the front of the vehicle, whether you're doing it on the driver's side or the passenger side. Just slide it into this backing shield. And then try to line it up onto the knuckle. Just like that. And I'll take the bolts, get the bolts started. I'm going to torque these bolts to 77 foot-pounds. Now take the wheel speed sensor. Make sure the O-ring is okay on that. This looks okay. Install that. Install the bolt. And tighten that down. That's good. All right, now I'm going to install the rotor. Now, if you had rust build up on the back side of the rotor, you're going to want to clean that with some sandpaper or a cleaning sanding disc. And slide the rotor back on. I'll just reinstall this back pad right here into the caliper bracket. If your brackets were pretty dirty, you might want to take a wire brush, clean those brackets up, put some lubrication on those. All right, now take the brake caliper. I'm just going to lubricate the pin, and I'm going to lubricate the other pin before we put that back in. And take the caliper, just slide it back in to the caliper bracket. I'll take the lower pin, just put some grease on that. And slide it back in position. And we'll tighten this up. And I'll tighten this to 32 foot-pounds. And put the wheel back on. Install the lug nuts. Now I'm going to torque these lug nuts down to 100 foot-pounds in a star pattern so that I tighten the wheel down evenly. And just go around again just to be sure.